They called her the crown princess, but the throne was not hers yet. Between deadly trials and jealous rivals, one man appeared chained and wounded, yet unlike anyone she had ever seen. Let your eyes rest, and your mind drift into a world where love is power, and fate is never fair. The kingdom of Yanlei had always been ruled by strength, and ended by desire. Now, as Emperor Li grew weaker with each moon, the palace buzzed with one unspoken truth: a successor must rise. Two daughters stood in the light of the imperial court. Princess Zhen, the eldest, graceful, clever, and cold as snow. Princess Lion, the younger, kind-eyed, soft-voiced, yet surprisingly unyielding. The council argued, the people whispered, but the emperor said nothing. On the 5th night of the Plum Blossom Festival, Princess Lion made a choice. She shed her royal robe, wrapped herself in a cloak, and slipped beyond the golden gates. She needed to see her people not as a ruler, but as one of them. The city of Shu was loud, alive, imperfect. Laughter mixed with hunger, perfume with smoke. She walked through it quietly, unnoticed, until a crowd gathered near the old well. A man was being sold. Chains clung to his wrists. Blood marked his bare back. Yet he stood tall, proud even. His hair shimmered silver in the firelight. His skin was pale like moonstone, and his eyes, deep, fluid, ancient, like the sea itself, had taken human form. Caught near the eastern reefs, shouted the seller, refuses to speak, barely eats, might be cursed. But look at him, he's a treasure. 10 silver. Who bids? Lion stepped forward. I do, she said clearly. 10 gold. The crowd gasped. The seller grinned. No one dared challenge her. She walked toward the man, pulled back her hood just enough, and looked into his eyes. You're mine now, she whispered. He blinked slowly, and for the first time, smiled. Back at the palace, her maids were horrified. A street slave, Your Highness? He could be dangerous. Then let him be, she said. I'm not afraid of the sea. She took him into her private quarters, had his wounds treated, fed him with her own hands. And when he finally spoke, his voice was low, like tides in the night. They called me Kai, but I had no name. Not until now. Who are you? She asked. He looked at her, truly looked. I think you already know. Meanwhile, behind the jade walls of the East Wing, Princess Zhen sipped plum wine and watched the night sky. She brought a sea beast into the palace, she murmured. Perfect. While she falls in love, I'll rise to the throne. The palace of Yanlei was like a still lake, quiet on the surface, but full of hidden currents. Since Kai's arrival, servants whispered louder, guards stiffened when passing near the princess's chambers, and one man watched from the shadows, fists clenched behind his back. General Ren, the empire's youngest war hero, raised in the palace, trained by the sword. And once, just once, he had almost kissed a princess under the peach tree. But duty had pulled him to the borders. War had kept him from dreams. And now, he had returned to find her caring for a stranger with silver hair and ocean eyes. That morning, Ren stood in the royal training grounds, slicing through the air with his blade, fast, precise, elegant. Princess Lion approached quietly, with Kai walking a few steps behind her, dressed in simple robes. Ren bowed, sharp, respectful, but his jaw was tight. I heard, he said, without looking at Kai. You brought in a curiosity. He's not a curiosity, Lion replied calmly. He's under my protection. Kai said nothing. He simply met Ren's stare with one of his own, unshaken, unreadable. Your Highness, Ren said, voice harder now. The council will see this as indulgence. They already whisper you're unfit to rule. Then let them whisper, she said. She turned to leave, but Ren stepped forward. Do you still trust me? He asked softly. She paused, and her voice trembled just enough to feel real. More than I trust anyone, Ren, but I no longer trust the game. That night, she sat alone in the moon garden. The cherry trees had begun to bloom. Kai appeared beside her, barefoot, silent as the breeze. He's in love with you, he said without asking. Ren? He's loyal. Loyalty is the purest form of love, until it becomes envy. She looked at him, studied the scars on his wrists. And you? What are you, Kai? He leaned closer, voice barely a whisper. A storm, waiting for your command. Her breath caught. But before she could answer, footsteps echoed. Her sister, Princess Zen, in a dress of blood red. "Father calls for both of us," she said sweetly. "It's time for your first test." The throne room had never felt colder. At its center sat the once mighty Emperor Li, now draped in furs, his skin pale as parchment. His breath was slow, but his eyes still sharp. Princess Lion entered first, modest, calm, her head held high. Behind her, Kai stood quietly, like a shadow that had chosen her. Moments later, Princess Zen swept in, lips painted crimson, robes embroidered with dragons. She walked like she owned the floor, and maybe she already did. The Emperor's voice came low, cracked. "My daughters, my legacy, the trials begin." "There are three," said the High Advisor. "One of wisdom, one of mercy, one of fire." The first would start at dawn. That night, unable to sleep, Princess Lion walked through the quiet library halls of the palace. There, between the ancient scrolls and jade statues, a man in black and gold waited. "Master Yu, the royal mage, unaging, unreadable. You should be resting," she said softly. "So should you," he replied, not looking up. "But sleep avoids those with heavy crowns." She stepped closer. "You served my mother, my father. You've seen emperors rise and fall. Do you think I'm ready?" He turned, golden eyes shimmering like candlelight. "Ready?" he repeated. "No ruler is ready. The throne does not ask for readiness. It demands sacrifice." A wind stirred, though the windows were closed. "Be careful, princess," he added. "Your sister plays with fire, and she's not afraid to burn." "And what about you?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Whose side are you on?" He smiled, slow, mysterious. "Yours, of course. I only ever follow the most dangerous heart." Outside, Kai stood beneath the moonlight, watching her shadow move behind the library walls. And far away, in the highest tower, Ren sharpened his blade, his heart caught between love and duty. The courtyard of the fire pavilion blazed with 1,000 lanterns. It was still dark, yet the flames refused to sleep. At the center stood a massive bronze brazier, ancient as the empire itself. Inside, the flames of the ancestors roared, sacred fire said to reveal truth or consume lies. Princess Zen arrived in red, lips curled into a smile that dripped poison. Princess Lion wore white and gold, her expression calm, but her heart steady like a drawn bow. From his throne, the emperor raised a trembling hand. "The trial of fire will test the heir's courage. She must walk through the flame gate and bring back the stone of truth." Everyone watched, even Kai, who stood hidden behind the royal screen. Even Ren, gripping his sword. Even Master Yu, eyes unreadable. Lion stepped forward. The flames hissed. The heat kissed her skin like warning fangs. The gate opened, two blazing pillars, the air between them shimmering like a mirage. She didn't hesitate. One step, two. Her skin burned, her vision blurred. But she didn't stop. She remembered her mother's words. Real fire doesn't destroy, it reveals. And at the heart of the fire, she saw it. A small black stone, pulsing like a heartbeat. She grabbed it with bare fingers. The pain surged through her arms, but she held on and walked back out. The crowd gasped. Her hands were blistered, but she was still standing. "Your Highness," the High Advisor whispered, "you passed." That night, the palace celebrated. But Lion did not stay for wine or praise. She slipped away and found Kai sitting alone in the moon garden. He didn't rise when she approached. He only looked at her bandaged hands, and his jaw clenched. "You touched fire," he said quietly. "It touched me back," she replied, sitting beside him. He reached slowly, took her hand between his. Cool, gentle, like ocean waves licking wounds. "Why risk your skin for a crown?" he asked. "I didn't," she said, her voice soft. "I did it because no one believes I can." He leaned in, forehead resting against hers. "I believe you can," he whispered. She closed her eyes. For a long moment, they stayed like that, breath to breath, skin to skin. Then his lips brushed her brow. Then lower, her cheek, her neck, her breath caught. Her hands gripped his arms. "If I asked you to leave all this, would you?" she murmured. He paused, his lips near her ear. "Only if you come with me, but I know you won't." Their eyes met. and she kissed him fully, deeply, without hesitation. Far above, in the tallest tower, Princess Zen watched from her mirror of scrying, and smiled. Let her fall in love. Let her forget the game. I will not. The next morning, the palace bloomed. Peach blossoms had begun to fall, and petals drifted gently across the courtyards. Birdsong floated in the air, but underneath it, something darker stirred. Princess Lion sat by the koi pond, her fingers trailing through the water. She still felt Kai's kiss on her lips, still remembered the way his hand fit around hers like a promise. But peace was never made to last in a palace of daggers. From the other side of the royal wing, Princess Zen moved swiftly. Her handmaid delivered a small box of silken herbs, laced with slow poison. Not to kill, not yet. Just enough to weaken the body, confuse the mind, dim the light. Just a little each day. Added to the tea, Zen said, her smile like a blade. Nothing fatal, not yet. I want her to stumble, not fall. That night, a formal dinner was held in the Hall of 9 Lanterns. The royal family, the 3 suitors, the generals, the mages. Everyone watched Princess Lion radiant in pale violet silk, her eyes tired, her smile steady. Kai stood behind her chair, silent, always near, always watching. Ran, seated across, barely touched his wine. And Master Yu leaned forward, voice soft. You look dim tonight, Your Highness. Perhaps the fire drained me, she answered. He frowned. His fingers brushed hers under the table. A small shimmer of golden light passed between them. He blinked, then narrowed his eyes. That's not fire exhaustion, he whispered. Someone is dulling your aura. Lion blinked. What? But before he could explain, the Emperor stood. Tomorrow begins the trial of mercy, he announced. And by its end, I shall name one of you my heir. A ripple moved through the room. Lion felt Kai's hand press gently against the small of her back. Reassuring, anchoring. She leaned into it slightly and closed her eyes. But on the other side of the room, Zen raised her cup in silent toast, her poison already working. Later that night, Lion sat alone in her chamber. The lanterns flickered softly. Kai entered, bringing a bowl of cooling tonic. You looked pale, he said. I feel strange, she admitted. Strange? How? She opened her robe slightly to show her shoulder flushed, almost fevered. He moved closer, knelt before her, touched her skin with a wet cloth. You're burning, he said, eyes dark with worry. Not from the fire, from something else. His fingers brushed her neck, her collarbone. She looked into his eyes, felt her body tremble not with fear, but with wanting. Don't leave, she whispered. He didn't. His lips found hers, slow, intimate, as if claiming something sacred. She pulled him closer. His hands gripped her waist. The silk of her robe slipped down one shoulder. Her heartbeat thundered. But in the shadows outside the chamber, a pair of eyes watched. Ran, frozen, forgotten, bleeding without a wound. His lips left her neck slowly, reverently, as if afraid he might awaken something deeper than desire. Princess Lion didn't move. Her breathing was uneven. Her skin flushed not only from the strange fever creeping through her veins, but from his touch, from the way his arms held her not like an emperor's daughter, but like a woman, a whole world. Stay, she whispered. Just stay. Kai didn't answer with words, but he gazed into her eyes, searching them like a sailor chasing stars. He kissed her again, this time slower, more certain, and she melted into his embrace. She didn't care about titles, not about destiny, or trials, or whispers. Just this moment. Just him. But behind a veil of silk, only a few steps away, Ren stood, frozen, his hands clenched behind his back, his jaw locked, his heart shattered silently. He saw her smile at Kai's smile he had once imagined for himself. He saw her eyes soften, her body lean into a man who was not him. And he said nothing. He didn't storm in. He didn't call her name, and let her go far more than I ever meant to. I loved her more than I should, and let her go far more than I ever meant to. Then, he turned and walked away, leaving behind only a shadow heavier than any goodbye. Back inside the room, Lion rested her head on Kai's chest. The rhythm of his heartbeat calmed her, but his body had stiffened slightly. Alert, Because in that quiet, he heard it, a whisper, not wind, not human, something old, wet, deep like the ocean murmuring a warning. She's being watched, and not just by jealous man. Kai's eyes darkened. He pulled her closer, running a hand through her hair gently. There's danger near, Lion, he murmured. I feel it. Not from blades, from something else, something inside. She didn't lift her head. I know, she whispered. My body, it doesn't feel like mine. I've been lightheaded for days. My skin burns strangely. He didn't respond. He only held her tighter, protectively, his fingers resting above her heart. But in his own, a realization had taken root. What flowed through her veins wasn't illness. Kai didn't sleep that night. He lay beside her, listening to every shift in her breath, every small twitch of pain in her fingers. By dawn, her fever had worsened. Her cheeks were pale, lips dry, and her eyes fluttered as if lost in a dream she couldn't wake from. When he touched her skin, it felt like fire trapped under silk. Lion, he whispered, shaking her gently. Lion, wake up. Her eyes opened halfway, hazy, unfocused. Is it morning already? She murmured. You've been poisoned, he said flatly. She blinked slowly, barely reacting. Poison? No, it must be the fire trial. Just exhaustion. But Kai had seen sickness. He'd survived traps and enchanted wounds in forgotten corners of the sea. He knew what this was. He knew how it crept in slowly, subtly, through food or drink, something she trusted. What have you been drinking? He asked. Herbal tea, the palace blends. They said it would help. His eyes darkened. They lied. He stood and called for a maid, but not loudly. Not in panic, not yet. He was calm, too calm. The ocean always was before a storm. That afternoon, Master Yu was in his private tower, brewing a slow-burning spell when the door opened without knocking. Kai entered. No bow, no titles, no hesitation. She's been poisoned. Yu raised an eyebrow. You're certain? She's weakening by the day. Her energy's distorted. The fire trial wouldn't have done this. Yu nodded slowly. I suspected it as well. But magic doesn't leave fingerprints. Kai leaned forward, voice cold. Who would benefit from her illness? Yu met his eyes, and for once, gave a straight answer. Her sister. Meanwhile, Princess Zen sat before her vanity mirror, watching her reflection as a maid brushed her hair. Has she shown symptoms yet? Zen asked, sipping wine. Yes, Your Highness, the maid replied. She fainted this morning, but the healers say it's just fatigue. Zen smirked. Good. Let them treat the wrong illness until it's too late. Back in Lion's chamber, Kai sat beside her bed once more. She was asleep again, lips parted, chest rising too shallowly. He reached for her hand, cool and trembling. I won't let them take you, he whispered. Not to prove they deserve a throne, not to prove you don't. He placed a kiss on her knuckles, light as a vow, then stood, eyes burning with calm fury. If the palace won't heal her, I will take her beyond its walls, even if it costs me everything. The moon hung low, pale and swollen like an omen. The palace was asleep, but not Kai. He moved silently through the servant corridors, each step calculated, each breath shallow. Wrapped in a dark cloak, he carried her gently, Princess Lion, limp in his arms, her forehead slick with fever. She stirred only once. Where are we going? She whispered faintly. Somewhere they can't reach you, he murmured, kissing her temple. Somewhere you can live. Her fingers brushed his chest before slipping back into sleep. He tightened his grip. He wouldn't lose her. At the outer wall, an old gate creaked open, bribed open by one of the stable boys who owed Kai a life debt. A horse waited, saddled, fast. If anyone follows us, Kai told the boy, burn this gate and say nothing. Yes, sir. The boy nodded, wide-eyed. He mounted swiftly, holding Lion close against him, her head resting on his shoulder. Then they vanished into the trees. But he wasn't unseen. From a balcony cloaked in vines, Ran had watched everything. His hand gripped the stone railing until his knuckles whitened. You stole her, he muttered. You bastard. He wanted to chase after them. He wanted to shout. He wanted to draw steel and carve truth out of Kai's chest. But instead, he turned and walked back inside. In his tower, Master Yu stood before a flickering crystal, watching two golden lights disappearing into the forest. So the storm moves, he murmured. Good. Then he turned toward a different light, one burning red. A sigil pulsing like a heartbeat. Zen's mark. And the fire is beginning to rise. Far from the palace, the road grew dark. Kai held Lion tightly as the horse galloped through the woods, her breaths shallow against his neck. He whispered softly to her old ocean lullabies only the tide remembered. I have you, I have you. The stars above blinked. And somewhere, for the first time in years, the emperor dreamed of fire and betrayal. The hidden shrine was carved into the side of a cliff, a place forgotten by maps and untouched by royal eyes. There, beneath a canopy of ancient blossoms, Kai laid Lion upon a bed of silk and moss. The healer, old, blind, but sharp as lightning, worked without words. Her hands moved in rhythms only the stars understood. Days passed. Kai never left Lion's side. He fed her when she could not lift her arms. He wiped her forehead, whispered to her dreams, and wrapped her in blankets of sea-warmed cloth. Then, finally, one morning, she opened her eyes clear and steady. You didn't leave, she said hoarsely. Kai leaned close, touching her cheek. I'd rather die beside you than live without you. Her eyes filled with tears, not from weakness, but from the weight of everything she had held alone for too long. She reached for him. Kai, if I ever lose the throne, or the crown, or everything my name gives me, you'll still have me, he said. I fell in love with the girl, not the princess. She kissed him slow and soft, her fingers tangled in his hair. The world outside could wait. Meanwhile, back in the imperial palace, Master Yu stood in the sacred chamber of the Phoenix Flame, a hidden room reserved only for royal blood. Before him burned a fragment of the ancestors' fire, eternal and unforgiving. He placed 2 feathers into the flame, one golden infused with Lion's aura, one crimson marked with Zen's energy. Lion's feather sizzled, sparked, and dissolved slowly, purified. Zen's did not burn. Instead, it hissed, turned black, and from the fire rose a whisper ancient and malevolent. Not of balance, not of flame. She bears a pact. You step back, heart pounding. A fire pact. Then it all made sense. How she walked through the trial unscathed. Why the fire did not judge her. Why her presence made the sacred brazier flicker unnaturally. She didn't endure the trial. She silenced it. He turned toward the wall of ancestor scrolls and began to write a report to the emperor himself. But even he knew Zen would strike before truth reached the throne. The carriage wheels turned slowly over palace stone. After nearly 2 weeks of silence, the empire held its breath. When the doors opened, and Princess Lion stepped out straight-backed, robed in silver and midnight blue, a hush fell across the court. She no longer looked fragile, no longer fevered. She stood like a storm that had passed through fire, and remembered its name. Behind her, Kai followed, his expression unreadable, his presence quietly commanding. From the balcony, Princess Zen smiled, but only with her lips. So the ghost returns, she whispered. In the throne hall, courtiers murmured nervously as the emperor regarded Lion from his seat. My daughter, he said, his voice raspy. You look changed. Because I have changed, she replied calmly. And I now know my enemy does not come from outside these walls, but from within them. A ripple spread through the nobles. Master Yu, standing silently in the shadows, met her eyes and gave a single, subtle nod. She was ready. Later that night, in the moon courtyard, Kai sat with Lion under the lantern trees. She placed her head on his shoulder. They think I'm weak because I needed saving. Then let them, he said. And when you rise, they'll remember who lit the fire. She smiled faintly. You always say the right thing. That's because I mean it. He turned, brushing his lips softly against hers, not with hunger, but with reverence. I'll follow you into battle, or into exile, whatever path you choose. What if I choose both? She asked. Then I'll build a throne in exile, he said, and crown you myself. As their laughter faded into silence, Master Yu stood alone in the royal library, staring down at a sealed scroll bearing the emperor's crest. It held his findings, the proof of Zen's deception. But he knew one thing. Truth only matters if it lives long enough to be heard. and Princess Zen had already begun to move. By dawn, a rumor had already spread through the palace halls. Princess Lion faked her illness to avoid the second trial. She ran away with a foreign lover. The sea witch bewitched her mind. Each whisper was sharpened like a blade, each one crafted by the same hand, Zen's. That afternoon, Ren stood in the royal training courtyard, sword in hand, sweat trailing down his brow. He struck dummy after dummy, but none of them bore the face he truly wanted to cut. Kai! When he turned, there he was entering the training yard, sleeves rolled, expression calm. The Sea Prince, the rival, the man who now held the heart Ren thought was his. I suppose you've come to train, Ren said bitterly. No, Kai replied. I came to ask why you're letting her name be dragged through mud. And I should trust a fish who seduced her away from her duty. You should trust the woman you claim to love. The swords between them were still sheathed, but their words weren't. You don't belong here, Ren hissed. You're not one of us. You don't understand what the throne means. Kai stepped closer. And you don't understand what she needs. She's not a crown to be worn, she's a soul. And she's drowning in this palace. Ren's eyes flickered. You speak like you know her. I do, because I listened. You watched. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Ren unsheathed his sword. Not to strike, not yet, but to draw a line in the dirt between them. Stay out of my way. Kai stared down at the line, then looked up, not afraid, not even angry. I'm not here to fight you, unless you force me to. And then he left. But the air between them was now sharp enough to bleed. Far away, in her secret chamber, Zen watched through an enchanted mirror, fingers wrapped around a bloodstone pendant. Let them tear each other apart, she whispered. And when they do, only I will be left standing. Her reflection twisted for just a moment into something not quite human. The sun had barely risen when an urgent knock echoed through the imperial chambers. Princess Lion sat up from her scrolls, surprised. It was rare for anyone to visit her this early, rarer still since the rumors began. A guard entered, his face pale. Your Highness, there's been an incident. In the eastern wing of the palace, chaos reigned. Silks torn, walls scorched. A secret passage discovered beneath the floorboards of an abandoned tea room. And in it, forbidden letters. All signed with the emblem of the House of Lion. Messages suggesting meetings with rebel factions. Discussions of a coup. Even requests for an outside protector phrased just vaguely enough to point toward Kai. The council met within hours. Some ministers already whispered the word treason. Lion stood before them, silent but proud. These letters are forgeries, she said, and poorly made. But they bear your seal, one counselor replied. And mention your name, more than once. And what would I gain from betraying the very empire I'm meant to protect? She countered, but her voice, steady as it was, didn't stop the looks, the doubts, the cold withdrawal of loyalty. From behind the golden curtains, Zen watched veiled, poised. She didn't need to speak. She only needed to let the seeds rot and bloom. I warned them, she whispered to her maid. The sea poisons even the brightest bloom. Later that evening, Ren found Lion alone in the Phoenix Garden. You should have been more careful, he said. She turned sharply. You think I did this? He looked pained. I don't know what to think anymore. You disappeared. You returned with him. You've changed. I changed because I was dying, she snapped. And no one, not even you, asked why. The silence between them was louder than shouting. He stepped closer. Just tell me the truth. Did you write those letters? Her voice broke not with fear, but with heartbreak. If you need to ask that, Ren, then you've already chosen your side. She walked away, cloak brushing against the lavender, leaving him standing alone beneath a sky that no longer looked like hers. The palace felt colder, though it was the height of summer. Princess Lion walked through the corridors like a shadow, eyes watching her, lips whispering after she passed. She had survived poison. She had survived exile. But could she survive the court? That night, in the hidden chamber beneath the east wing, Kai knelt before a cloaked figure, face hidden, voice rough. I need you to find the scribe who forged those letters, Kai said. The spy, an old contact from the coastal guild, sniffed. Dangerous request. You're asking me to dig through Zen's snakes. I'm not asking. I'm offering a name clearing, and enough silver to silence a temple. The man grinned. Very well, but you owe me. If she lives, I'll owe you everything. Meanwhile, in the Imperial archives, Master Yu hovered over ancient scrolls and magical tracings. He had found something, a distortion in the seal used on the treason letters. Too perfect, too symmetrical, not human. A mimic glyph, used only in illegal enchantments spent centuries ago. This seal was conjured, he whispered. She's gone further than I feared. He rolled the scroll tightly, eyes blazing. The Emperor must see this before the next trial. If he doesn't, his voice trailed off. Because the second trial was no longer a whisper on the calendar. It had a name now. The Trial of Truth. A brutal ritual. Each princess would be questioned by the ancient mirror of judgment, forced to speak truths and reveal hidden intentions. No magic could shield the mind. No light could escape its reflection. If the mirror cracked, the soul was judged unworthy. In the courtyard, Lion and Zen stood side by side, silent before the Emperor as he announced it. Tomorrow at dawn, you will both stand before the mirror of truth, and only the soul untainted will remain a contender. Lion didn't flinch. Zen smiled sweetly, but her knuckles were white. That night, in the moon garden, Kai found Lion alone, sword in her lap, her face cold with resolve. They want you broken, he said softly. Then they should have made me softer. He sat beside her. Are you afraid? No, she answered, because I have nothing to hide. And she does. She looked at him now, truly looked not as a protector, but as a man. Kai, if I pass this trial, I want you by my side. Officially, as mine. He took her hand, pressed it to his lips. I've been yours since the day you bought me. The hall of reflection was carved from pure moonstone. Silent, sacred, only opened during succession trials, only by royal blood. At the center stood the mirror of truth, a towering slab of obsidian encased in silver roots. It didn't reflect your face. It reflected your soul. The nobles filled the high balconies. The Emperor sat at the head of the hall, flanked by guards and scholars. Below, the two princesses stood cloaked in ceremonial robes, hair unbound. First to be called, Princess Zen. She walked slowly toward the mirror, every step deliberate, every breath rehearsed. She knelt. Speak your vow, the Emperor commanded. I vow to serve the Empire with loyalty, to honor truth above ambition, and to accept judgment with grace. The mirror pulsed, then began to glow faintly. For a moment, it held, but then a crack, barely audible, thin, but visible. A shiver passed through the room. Zen's eyes widened only for a second before she bowed her head in false humility. Perhaps. My heart trembled, she whispered. The Emperor said nothing, but the scholars wrote quickly. Then came Princess Lion. She stepped forward without hesitation, her gaze locked on the mirror. Speak your vow, the Emperor repeated. I vow to protect the people before the crown, to speak only what I believe, and to carry this empire with the strength of both fire and mercy. The mirror shimmered, and then glowed brightly. No cracks, no flickers. A soft, melodic hum filled the room, rare, a sign of deep alignment between soul and vow. The nobles leaned forward. One whispered, "She's the true flame." But before anyone could speak, a sudden shout echoed from the back. Wait! All turned. Master Yu entered, holding a scroll sealed with the Emperor's crest. This trial is not yet complete, he said, because falsehood has poisoned its roots. He unrolled the scroll. I present evidence that Princess Zen used mimicry magic in the first trial and forged documents to frame her sister for treason. Gasps! Zen's composure cracked. This is slander, she cried. But then, the mirror pulsed again. Not for Lion, not for you, for Zen. The second crack spread like lightning across its surface, a symbol not of judgment, but of condemnation. The Emperor stood slowly, his voice cold. Zen, you will return to your chambers and await verdict. You are no longer a candidate for succession. Zen fell to her knees, not in humility, but in silent rage. And Princess Lion, steady, silent, turned to face the court. Her path was now clear, but her enemies would not stop. The royal guards escorted Zen through the palace halls, no longer dressed in silk and gold, but in white, the color of shame. Her eyes, once sharp with ambition, now burned with a dangerous calm. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply walked. But inside her, something cracked far louder than any mirror. Locked inside her private quarters, stripped of her titles, she paced like a cornered tiger. She took everything, Zen whispered to herself. I was born first. I bore the weight. I trained for this. And she smiles and the empire bows. She approached her mirror, the mundane one, and stared into her own reflection. They think I've lost. She leaned close. But I still have fangs. That night, under the veil of darkness, a shadow moved through the eastern halls, cloaked, hooded, carrying a vial of black lotus poison. But she was not unseen. Kai had expected this. He caught her hand just as she reached the gate of the sacred kitchens. Poison, Zan? Even now? She didn't flinch. Justice, she hissed. The same justice that saved her while it buried me. You buried yourself. She tried to pull away, but he held firm. It's over, Zan. You lost. No, you stole it from me. You and your sea-tainted charm. She was mine to crush, mine to surpass. She was never your enemy, he said. You made her one because you couldn't love anything that didn't kneel. Her silence spoke louder than rage. He let her go, but the guards were already behind her. The emperor gave no speech. There was no trial. Only a scroll of exile signed and sealed. She shall be banished beyond the northern wall, he declared, and stripped of her name. In the Frostlands, months later, a cloaked woman sat alone near the fire. No crown, no attendants, only wind, snow, and memory. Zen was no longer a princess, only a woman haunted by what she might have been had she chosen mercy over control and love over ambition. A wolf howled in the distance. She didn't look up, only whispered, if I ever return, I'll be more than fire. I'll be the ashes that blind them. It rained on the morning of the coronation. Not a storm, but a soft, steady drizzle. The kind that washed away what was. The kind that made flowers bloom. Inside the grand hall, nobles gathered once more, this time, not to judge, but to witness. At the center, Princess Lion stood alone before the throne. Not trembling, not smiling, just steady. Her silver robes shimmered like the dawn, and her eyes held the memory of every trial, every betrayal, every touch of love that had kept her breathing. The emperor stepped forward, older now, and tired, but proud. You did not win this crown through lineage, he said. You won it through fire, through truth, and through heart. He reached for the royal circlet, phoenix-shaped, forged from star iron. But before placing it, he paused. Do you still wish to carry it? He asked quietly. The burden, the blood, the thorns? Lion looked around her at the courtiers, the empty space where Zen once stood, and the doors that led to 1,000 unknown tomorrows. Then, she smiled. No, a stunned silence. She continued, clear and calm. I wish to carry the people, and if the crown helps me do that, I accept it. But I won't let it own me. The emperor nodded and gently crowned her. Then you are ready. That evening, under the lantern-lit trees of the moon garden, she found Kai waiting. He turned when he heard her steps, and when he saw the crown, he bowed slightly. So, he said with a half-smile, do I kneel now, or after dessert? She rolled her eyes, laughing. Don't you dare. They stood in silence for a while. Then she spoke. I want to rule, but not forever. What do you mean? I want a life, a real one, where I don't have to fight for breath every day. A life with you. His smile faded, not with sadness, but with something deeper. So after the peace treaty is signed, after the roads are rebuilt, and the council no longer needs your fire, I want to disappear with you, she finished. To the coast, or maybe the mountains, somewhere with stars and no whispers. He stepped closer, resting his forehead against hers. I'll take you to the deepest sea cave, where even time forgets its name. Will you still love me when I'm no longer a princess? I'll love you when you're old and furious, when your crown's crooked and your tea's too cold. I'll love you if you lose it all, because I loved you when you had nothing but a fever and your fists. She kissed him then like a beginning, and somewhere, beneath the sky, a phoenix cried, not in sorrow but in blessing. If this tale touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe. More stories await, only on Drama Tales.